Howdy everybody, I'm Kris Keefer. Welcome to RacerXOnline.com, and we are in the land of green grass. We got some trees, we got a pond, we got ducks. This isn't Glen Helen, and I'm excited about it. Can't wait. Triumph TF 450 Ricky Carmichael edition is here. Man, I am excited to ride this thing. I cannot wait to get on the track. It's red clay. It's going to be epic conditions, and we're going to break down this brand new machine from Triumph. As you know, back in February, we went to Gatorback and did the TF 250X. But as right now, this is all about the 450 side, and for Triumph, it's their first go at a 450 motocross motorcycle. So I'm excited to get on it, ride it, and tell you guys what I think about it. But just so you guys know, this is the only 450 that Triumph is going to go to market with. They are not going to bring two different versions of the 450 out. The 450 Ricky Carmichael edition is the only 450 in 2025 they're going to bring out. So we are here, we're the first ones to ride it, and we're going to get this thing broken down for you, tell you what we think, what it compares to, maybe do a little bit more than what we should on today. You know me, I like to bend the rules a little bit, so stay tuned, we'll be right back. We're going to break this whole thing down. All right, so what comes on the Ricky Carmichael edition? So first things first is his signature bar. I'm a big stickler when it comes to length of the bar. If you get a bar that's too long, it's hard for me to corner. You would think, Keefer, you'd have more leverage, but it's actually the opposite. If you get too long of a bar, it's really hard to tip into a corner. So Ricky did a great job with the bend, has enough height, as well as the length's around 802 millimeters, which is a nice length for guys from 5'8" to 6'2", so that is nice. ODI lock-on grips, Dunlop MX34 tires, but a 110 rear, not a 120. Triumph goes to a 110 because of weight. Obviously, there's other manufacturers that do that as well. You're looking at just over a pound of weight savings from a 120 to a 110. So a 110 90/19 is on the rear. It does come with Ricky Carmichael maps. So Ricky came out here to the facility and worked pretty hard on ECU mapping. So today we have the standard map as well as a Ricky Carmichael specific ECU map. The MX2 Pro app that Triumph comes with, you have your phone, you can download the app. There are 10 pre-programmed maps that you can choose from. We're going to go through all of those. Whole shot device that's made from X-Trig with the Triumph branding, and of course the front disc guard. So not a lot of changes from a normal edition if Triumph coming out with one. I've heard that we might have one later in the year, but as of right now, this is what's going to be for sale in February. And for $10,995, that's not a bad deal. Not to mention, this is 240 pounds with a spring fork. To me, that is huge news. It is the lightest 450 motocross machine today. Maybe only by like a half a pound, but nonetheless, KTM has the lightest bike before the Triumph was introduced, and they have an air fork. Now, we have the old trusty KYB spring fork, and it is still light. So that is huge news for me, because a lot of you guys out there are saying, oh man, if only KTM came with the spring fork. Well look, the Triumph TF 450 Ricky Carmichael edition does come with the KYB fork, and it's 240 pounds, which is light. This will be available in February, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit, but nonetheless, look for it at your local Triumph dealer. better on dirt starts than great. As you can tell, I'm old, so we didn't have that. We just had dirt.
That's the explanation for that?
That's what I got.
I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever seen somebody get beat that's on a grate with everybody else on dirt.
I did get beat, but when we got in the dirt, it was fine. I won twice. 2 out of 4. 50%. It's not bad.
50%, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll take those
50% of the time, it works every time. Okay, guys, that's a wrap here at the Triumph facility in Culloden, Georgia. What a day. I just want to start off by saying thanks to Triumph for having us out here. It's nice to get away from California, have some good dirt to test on, something different than Glen Helen or Fox Raceway. So I am extremely satisfied with the day that we had. We put 3.2 hours on this bike today, so lots of time. Most of you guys out there are wondering, hey, Keefer, what about this bike? How does it compare? I'm going to do a whole questionnaire. You guys just sent me a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer those on my YouTube channel, so you can go to Keefer Inc. Testing YouTube. We're going to answer those there, but this is going to be more of an overview about the bike and what I feel like this bike is about, because you guys are going to have to spend your hard-earned money, $10,995 for this TF 450 Ricky Carmichael edition. Now, one of the questions you guys are going to ask me is, Keefer, what about a regular edition? Are they going to come out with a normal edition? From what I've heard, yes, they are. I don't know when they're going to do that, but I think they're going to have another 450 for next year. I know on the top of the show we said, hey, this is it. This is all they're coming out with, but 6 hours have passed and little things have changed. So just want to give you guys a heads up that I don't know when that's going to happen, but as of right now, I feel like this bike is going to be really, really good for a lot of different types of people. We're going to dive into that, but for $10,995, I feel like that's on par with most 450s out there right now. 61.5 peak horsepower is what they're claiming on this bike, 36.8 foot-pounds of torque. So, and you have like 11,400 rev cut. Peak horsepower is quite good if you're looking at numbers. I'm not a big dyno numbers guy, but I know some of you guys are. So, and the torque is about normal for a 450. So I would say, yeah, it's in the ballpark for most 450s on the dyno, and if you're a geek on numbers and things like that. Things that are on this bike, it is a plain bearing crank, just for the rod, so you guys know that. A 45-hour piston durability life, so they're claiming you guys can change out that piston every 45 hours, which is quite good. Obviously, it's a single overhead cam. It's not a dual cam, so that is unique. It's lighter. This isn't made to rev out. It's a little bit more compact, so they're going for weight here. They have Del West titanium valves, 44 millimeter throttle body, and of course the new muffler right here behind me is for the new FIM sound regulations that's coming up. So I know that some manufacturers don't have that yet, but Triumph wanted to see that through, and they're trying to jump ahead and get that knocked out right away. And of course, it has the MX2 Pro, the Tune Pro app, 10 pre-programmed maps. The GET system that is on this, it's a GET ECU. It is locked. We can't get into it. Triumph has worked that out that, hey, if you guys want to get on your app, get the app, download it, and then you have 10 pre-programmed maps. That's what we're going to have to work with, which isn't bad, honestly. I rode with all 10 maps here today. There is quite a bit of difference between a lot of the maps. Some of the maps are quite close together, but today we decided on a Ricky Carmichael map, the standard map, and there is called a Loamy Soft map. So for me, I like the Loamy Soft in a lot of areas just because it picks up a little bit quicker, but you have a lot of choices. So having 10 choices within an app is quite good, and it just relieves a lot of the pressure for you guys out there trying to have to screw with the grid. So easy peasy. All right, so what about the bike? Right when you sit on it, very comfortable. Nice job to Ricky and ODI for creating a bar that is easy to hop on, feel comfortable. The seat is very flat. It is a very grippy seat, so you will notice if you ride all day. Right now, got a little chafing going on in my butt, but nonetheless, that is a very grippy seat cover, so you will like that. But just sitting on it, it just feels really neutral and easy just to hop on and get used to really quick. What's nice about being out here, I've been out here with my kid quite a bit in the past year or so, just riding. I've ridden a Yamaha here, a KTM here, a Kawasaki here, and now the Triumph. So even though I didn't get to ride all of the bikes on the same day, I have a feeling for what these bikes do out on the tracks that we rode today. So let's start off with the engine. Look, the engine's not going to rip your arms off. It doesn't have a lot of front side. I would say below 5,000 RPM, it is quite smooth. It's similar in the fact of a KTM or maybe a Husqvarna FC. It's very smooth below 5,000 RPM, but after 5,000 RPM, it really climbs up quick and it actually spools up quite fast, similar to a Yamaha, but with just more traction. So for me, I always complain about if you have a bike that's too smooth, it makes it feel heavy. We're working with 240 pounds, which is the lightest 450 out there with the spring fork. I can't tell you guys how excited I am about that, having a light bike with a spring fork. So having that smooth engine character on the tracks we rode today, very tacky, very sticky. One of the tracks, MX2, is really tight. MX1's a little bit more open. But for me, the bike still feels light and agile, which is quite amazing to me because normally when you have a smooth roll-on type of engine, you have a lazy, maybe heavy type of character. And to me, when I have like the factory edition KTM out here, it has that lazy, I have to downshift a second and really rev the crap out of it. And for me, with the Triumph, it has more pickup, it feels lighter. Second gear is longer than a KTM, but you're still gonna get that super connected, easy to roll on power. So an average guy can jump on this Triumph and be like, you know what, I can get along with this power. It's not gonna rip your arms off. Sure, you can hop on a YZ450 and have more excitement and be like, wow, this thing's a lot. And look at, you know, you guys know me, I love a Yamaha on my own time, but this bike is easier to manage for a longer period of time than the Yamaha. 170 pounds, obviously I think if some of you bigger guys watching this, there's still plenty of power to go around because second gear is quite usable. Sometimes in the world of 450s, I'm worried about third gear lugability. That's the benefit for a Yamaha. It can lug third gear really well. This bike can't lug like a Yamaha in third gear, but it's longer in second gear than a KTM and a Yamaha. So for me, very usable. Now, if I'm coming out of a corner and got to shift early, there is enough lightweight crank feel and enough spool up and mid RPM response that you can get in that third gear really easy and it uses the meat of the power. So that's what I like about this engine. It's usable. Forward bite, when I'm rolling out of a corner, I can just mash that throttle. It's not going to wheelie on me as much as a Yamaha. And for me, I just have a lot of connectivity to the rear wheel, and that is something that I think Triumph worked on really hard to please a wide range of people. When we talk about this 61.5 horsepower engine, I don't even think about that when I'm riding because I feel like I'm mostly in the mid-range and sometimes in the over-rev a little bit when I'm in second gear going from one corner to the next if it's short. So I look about how long each gear is. So second gear is very long, third gear is quite usable, and for me 61 horsepower, I don't think I'm going to use all of that, but it is nice to hear that it does have that much horsepower. We got to fourth gear maybe one time today on the big track. But I can tell you guys this, once you're exiting a corner, get ready because the mid-range is a sneaky power. It's similar to the KTM where it has a lot of mid-range pull, but just, I think, a little bit more than the orange bike. And it's quieter, quite frankly. So listening to this bike, just sitting here watching the guys ride today, it's very quiet. I think some of that has to do with how linear the feel is, so you have a quieter muffler, but the KTM has a louder, raspier muffler, so maybe you might think you have more bottom end. But just from the ride here today, obviously I've rode this thing quite a bit, but just from today, man, it has a lot of connectivity and mid RPM response, and it loves to be in that mid to top end area. So don't be afraid to rev this bike because it will oblige that kind of rider. And but also I feel like if you are a second gear type of guy on the 450, it's usable that way. Now, for you guys that want to lug the engine, I would recommend maybe going up to a 1350, even a 51 tooth sprocket. I've tried that in the past, and 51 does really light this thing up in third gear. So I feel like if you want to run in third gear, this bike will be able to do that, but you just have to put a 51 tooth on, which is quite easy to do. Shifting, if I'm going to knock this a little bit here, shifting is notchy. Second to third gear, it's kind of tough to get into third gear at times, no matter how much you use the clutch. So for me, similar to the TF250X, It takes a little bit of work to get into third gear. Also downshifting into second, if you're in third, it takes a little bit of effort, so you really got to lift up to get that shift. So for me, I think they could get a little bit better in that area. And then for you guys that like a light clutch pull, this thing is very light for a 450 on the hydraulic side. I personally think it's a little bit too light. I would have liked a little bit more grab, just so I have a little bit more feel in the middle of my lever pull, but nonetheless, very light pull. So you guys worried about arm pump, they did a great job on the lever feel. I just would like a little bit of a better engagement feel on the clutch and just a little bit more bite, which could help a little bit more of that low end pop and make it even feel lighter. So maybe when they develop this bike more, they're gonna help that clutch out a little bit. But for you guys looking for a light lever pull, this bike has that. To round off the engine package, I'm really sensitive with vibration. KTM, Kawasaki vibrates a lot. This is probably a little less vibration than the KTM and the Kawasaki. The Yamaha is great in that category. It doesn't vibrate as much, but nonetheless, I don't get a lot of vibration through the handlebars or through my feet on this, which is nice. So that's obviously a great attribute to this motorcycle. In the world of 2025 motorcycles, everyone's going stiff in the chassis. I like where Triumph's headed because we're not too stiff, and I feel like it does have enough front end feel if you start pushing it into a flat corner that it's not going to wash away or knife on you, but yet straight line stability is quite good. Today, look, it rained here a couple days, it's ruddy, it's not that rough. I'm not going to sit here and say I can't wait to take it back to Glen Helen and really show you guys what it's all about, because look, there's a lot of you guys out here on the East Coast, and I feel like the rigidity is much less than what I felt from a Yamaha out here and in a KTM. The Kawasaki is a little bit better than those two, but for me, the Triumph rigidity balance is quite good on the chassis. The front end steering has a lot of bite in the world of 2025 450 motocrossers, and there's not a lot of front end steering motorcycles besides the Kawasaki. I feel like this has an equal balance. I could back this thing in rear steer, or I can really dive into a corner without a rut and have enough front end bite within this chassis, which is huge for me. And then when I'm on the edge of my tire on throttle going through a sweeper, it's not deflective at all. I don't feel like this is a harsh feeling chassis. There's a lot of comfort and a lot of straight line stability within this chassis. So for me, it never really does anything abnormal, and it's not rigid. That is a huge thing for me. I despise rigid motorcycles, and the trend is going that way because Supercross, heavy loads, tighter steering, we want more front end bite. This is a nice blend of each. Well, I think most of you guys will be happy. I'm sure some of the heavier or larger guys or really fast guys would like a little bit of a stiffer feel, but for me, I'd rather have a little bit of a softer feel than too stiff. So this chassis does it really, really well. And of course, it feels light, like I said earlier. Like leaning into a corner, it invites you to stand up longer, similar to a KTM. And then I can sit down and really get into a rut here today where Harup was here today and really screwing up all of our corners because he's going so damn fast, right? So then he squares out these corners. I can cut down early, and there's enough front end bite within the chassis that I can do that with ease. I can't really do that on a Yamaha. The Yamaha feels big in these conditions, and this doesn't. This feels compact, light. I can stand up and I can maneuver the chassis easy on this motorcycle. As far as the KYB suspension, like, insert your comment here. Look, it's probably the best stock suspension that we're ever going to get. Yamaha, Triumph, they did a great job with their KYB suspension. It is not the exact same fork as a Yamaha. There is a little bit different internals than the Yamaha, but what we are getting is a comfortable feeling fork, maybe a little bit soft for me today where the dirt is heavy, but what's nice about this bike is you can adjust it. Settled on 5 millimeters on the fork. I went 2 in on the compression on the fork, and then went 1/4 in on high-speed shock, 2 in on the rebound, so slowed that down and ran at 98 millimeters, and I was quite happy. If I was going to say there's a negative, a little bit low on the front after I raise the rear, but I'll take that so I could steer off the front end. Otherwise, for me, no huge complaints with the suspension, and it's quite nice. So for a first-year motorcycle, guys, I could sit here and make this video 35 minutes long. they're in the ballpark. Let's just say that. I'm not going to sit here and say this is the best 450 motocrosser ever, but I can tell you what, it does a lot of things well, and there's some things that it does better than its competitors. So for a first-year motorcycle, I think that's huge. I'm huge on front-end steering feeling, and I'm huge on not having a rigid chassis, and this bike has good front wheel feel and fairly comfortable. So I think a lot of you guys out there will enjoy it. Reliability, I know a little bit about that. Some of you guys are scared about first-year motorcycles and say, I'm gonna work out the bugs 2-3 years and maybe I'll buy it. Triumph has a rigorous durability schedule. I've been a part of Honda's process, Yamaha's process, Triumph's process, and they are one of, I would say, one of the manufacturers that I would say overkill. They do a lot of durability, and the tracks they do it at are hammered and wet and sand. So I've seen firsthand how durable this bike can be. And for me, so if you guys are worried about that, I don't think you guys should be. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's gonna last 500 hours, but for a first-year motorcycle, that is a safe part. The whole collaboration with Ricky is really cool. I don't know if you guys are into the whole Ricky Carmichael thing with the Triumph, but I kind of like it. It has Dunlop tires, and it's better than having another tire on there. There's a lot of traction within Dunlop. ODI bars, it's a good bend, so I think that's a nice touch between 5.8 to 6.2. We kind of mentioned that at the top of the show. And it's just a nice touch to having that, the front disc guard, a Hinson clutch cover, little things that add to the Triumph, a la Ricky Carmichael. So he's the GOAT for a reason, and he has every right to be on this motorcycle. And to me, it's pretty sexy looking. I'm not a huge black and white motif kind of rider, but to me, it looks kind of stealthy and cool. So another cool thing about the RC edition here, it comes with the X-Trig hole shot device. Look, I think my guy Ripper got a shot of my wife doing a hole shot device. You guys watching this, you know what I'm talking about. If your wife's trying to set your hole shot device, your anger levels just starts climbing because you're sweating, your heart rate goes to 170 because you're pushing down on that front end, and she ain't doing it. She can't do it. And she's yelling at you saying, you're not doing it right. Well, this is how easy this X-Trig thing is. My wife did it within the third time. And then after that, she nailed it every time. So a nice touch. It's a little high for my liking, but I would go down a little bit further. But nonetheless, you're by yourself or with your wife, they can do it. That's a nice touch. If you guys have any questions of this thing, Kris at KeeferInkTesting.com. You can shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them. That's a virtual door for you guys to come on in and talk some shit with me, and we're happy to help you guys out. And don't forget, you can go on my YouTube channel when this is up, and there's a ton of questions within these notes right here that I answer. And if we didn't cover it here, maybe it's in here. So go check that out. And don't forget, 12 issues, $30. Racer X magazine, a lot of stuff inside the magazine that you don't get here online, so go do that. That's always good. I mean, if you're going to the toilet in the morning with your coffee, nothing better than a Racer X magazine. I mean, who doesn't like a magazine on the toilet? I do. You do. Why not? 12 issues, $30. Go get it. See you on the next test.